Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media. Dear Business Coach pages and groups. Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. Ready? And yeah, fun. Okay, awesome. Hey, Thomas Gelmi, welcome to the Dear Business Coach podcast. How are you today?
Thank you very much for inviting me to your show, Elizabeth. I'm great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, and now am I pronouncing your name properly?
It's Gelmi. It's written with a G, so you might be tempted to say Gelmi, but it's Italian, so you pronounce it like gelato.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Gelmi. Well, you know what? This is a lot of fun because we get to improv a little bit with each other and I get to learn about you. So I had received some details and learned a little bit about you from some introduction. So I thank you for wanting to be on the Dear Business Coach podcast. So what are we talking about today?
I would like to talk about the key factors of successful leadership and collaboration, and everywhere wherever people want to achieve something together. What are really the crucial factors? What are maybe even the game changers? What makes people thrive? Yeah, especially in the workplace, but not necessarily limited to the workplace, because the principles are also valid for other areas of life.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And so can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Okay, yeah. So I have a very colorful background. Let me start with where I am today and what I do today, and then go backwards and tell you where I came from. So today I'm running my own business. I've been working with leaders across the globe for more than 20 years, supporting them in developing their humanness, so to speak, right, in their work, all the human factors. So I do coaching, I do team coaching, I do leadership development programs. And I got there in a rather unusual way, let's say. I do not have an academic background. I did not study psychology or anything alike. I earned my first money cutting people's hair.
Oh, cool.
So that's what I did when I was 16. Here in Switzerland, we have a dual education system. You can go the academic path, or you can do what we call an apprenticeship. So you can learn a profession. Most apprenticeships last somewhere between 2 to 4 years, right? So I did an apprenticeship as a hairstylist, and that was great. I loved it. It was creative. It was about people. It was about making people feel good about themselves, right? And what I understand today, in retrospect, in hindsight, is that what I also did at that time, besides cutting people's hair, was having deep conversations, listening to people and hearing stories, and sometimes hearing things I didn't really want to hear, but you somehow become like a trusted advisor sometimes, right? And then I thought, well, that can't be everything for my life. Let's try out different things. Let's see what else there is that I might enjoy, right? And so I did a little bit of job hopping. I spent some time touring with a circus. I lived in the trailer. I experienced this circus life, which was also in a way about making people feel good, right? And making people happy and do something enjoyable. And then in my mid-20s, I joined Swissair, the Swiss national airline, and I started as a flight attendant and became a purser quite quickly. So I was leading cabin crew on the international network of destinations. I traveled a lot. I interacted a lot with people from various cultures, and I learned a lot about what works in human interaction, what escalates, what de-escalates, what
Hmm.
solves issues, what doesn't, right? And the airline had some difficulties in 2001, shortly after 9/11. The whole company grounded, and I opened a new chapter. I thought, okay, good enough. Let's see. And that was the beginning of that part of my path that I'm still on. So I started working with a small consulting company, and I got into coaching, training, people development. So that's how it started, and that's how everything came about. Right.
Yeah, well, that's a brave move to take experience, firsthand experience, and realize that you have something there or something that you want to work with. Was that thought process, was there a light bulb that went off one day for you?
No, no, not really. The light is like what like Steve Jobs once said, the light goes on looking back. You connect,
Hmm.
right? You connect the dots. You understand what led to what and why something was maybe helpful. That at the moment when you experienced it felt painful or wrong or like a failure, even, right?
Hmm.
So, no, there was no light bulb going on at some specific point in time. It was rather me um, dealing with what happened, you know, doing something with what happened every time something happened, every time I was at a waypoint, so to speak, right? There's this beautiful quote. I don't know who said it, but it makes a lot of sense to me. It's like things turn out the best for those who make the best out of how things turn out.
Are you a LinkedIn user? If you are, you can join me for LinkedIn Live Audio with Elizabeth every week, usually on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I will have a LinkedIn Live Audio where we talk about podcasting for executives who speak and podcasting for team leaders who speak. These are the themes that are currently running. If that sounds like something you're interested, visit me, Elizabeth Walker at Work, on my LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It resonates a lot with me because I think that's something I instinctively did many times. I did the best out of how things turned out. Okay, this is the situation. What am I going to do next? What is the next step that makes sense to me? And that's how I progressed through my entire life. I was never a person who set goals. Like, I'm here and I want to be there, and that's the
Hmm.
path. Because that's not how life works, in my experience. From my standpoint, life is messy. And right? There's this joke, how do you make God laugh? Whoever God is for you, right? How do you make God laugh? Well, talk about your plans.
That is good. Yes, my mom used to say that life is messy, and I thought that was a very she meant that in a very gracious way, like give yourself some grace. And I've heard
Yeah.
some people here recently talk about some peers, some mentors bring up the idea of life is not in a straight line, or it's your the graph of your life or whatever is not always up, and better. And so sometimes it's doesn't look doesn't look like
Yeah.
what you think it's going to.
Exactly. It's not that straight line. Like in theory, we believe it's starting point, goal, path. It's sometimes you even feel like you're going backwards. I can
Yes.
I remember periods in my life where I thought, I felt like being further in my development or more on top of things than I feel now? Like, am I moving backwards? Am I degressing? No, it's just, it's maybe a circle, right? And a part of the circle is facing backwards, but maybe it's a spiral going upwards that only looks like a circle, right? And and you may end up somewhere different from what you thought you want to go, from where you thought you want to end up, but you're in the right place, right? Because so much is unpredictable, so much is uncertain, and there's only so much we can really control in our lives.
So, would you say that there are signposts or things to look out for if you're in a situation? If I feel like I have not succeeded, or if I am feeling discomfort or failure in that way out of a situation, is there a way to position myself to make the
Yeah.
best out of that? Or is there a
Yeah.
science to it in your experience?
I think it has various aspects or various perspectives through which you can look at the situation. First of all, a failure or what feels like a failure is often just the label we put on it. So
Hmm.
we have this strong tendency, or our mind has this strong tendency to label everything, right? Good, bad, disappointment. I thought that would come out differently. Oh, I love that. Oh, this is great, right? And that's how we construct our reality. We could say the
Mm-hmm.
events, the situations, what's happening per se is neutral. We give a meaning to it. We give a label to it. We give it a frame of meaning. And that's the reason why two people can experience the same situation and react completely differently to it because they perceive it differently. One person
Hmm.
might think, oh my God, that's a disaster. And the other person might go, well, okay, that's a challenge, but let's see what we can do. So it
Yes,
cannot.
well, it would be great if I could, if that, it would be great if we could listen to each other if we have the chance to do that. Do you have some examples? Maybe I hear possibly a story. I can imagine you suggested that you learned a lot about what escalates and de-escalates during your time with
Yeah,
the airline, for example.
yeah.
Maybe you can share a time when you saw two people experience something really differently.
All the time, all the time. Like when you have people who do not get the assigned seat,
Okay.
right? There's the ones that freak out because of that, because something's not going according to plan, and that throws them off balance completely. And then there are others. Oh, I'm not getting the seat. I was okay, easy, no problem. Yeah.
Mm,
Would you mind changing seats with someone so that they can sit together? Sure, of course. And somebody else like, no way. I have bought this seat. This is
right.
my seat. It belongs to me, right? But these are small examples. I mean, we were just a moment ago talking about failures and what feels like a misfortune or a failure or a bad situation and how to get out of that. You see, I mentioned the grounding of Swissair a moment ago. For myself, but also for many of my colleagues, this was a disaster. This was terrible because we had such a strong identification with our work and with the company. There was really something like a Swissair spirit, right? And then suddenly, abruptly, this came to an end. It was like losing a loved one, losing a relationship, like a breakup, a really big breakup after a long relationship. So in that moment, it had a very negative flavor, right? And it was bad. It was it was only about a year after that when I was already at a point where I could look back and see that it was probably a good thing for me that this happened,
Hmm.
because it made me embark on a different journey, on a different path. Looking back from today's standpoint, it was one of the best things that happened in my career, because it made me, become who I am today to some extent. Now, that's what I mean by making the best of how things turn out, right? How do I label something? What meaning do I give to what's happening? And maybe in the moment, it's too difficult to give it a positive a positive
Okay.
meaning. Yeah. But what can help in such a case is really just this thought that this too shall pass. Everything is temporary. And when I feel down and when I feel bad and when I feel like I don't see the path forward, I don't know what to do, this too shall pass. Everything is only temporary. And you will reach a point where you're in a better position, in a better state, right? Just, have passion, have compassion, have patience with yourself. I think self-empathy is also a key in all of that. And by looking back, you may also see the resources you had in this moment, and
Hmm.
how you were able to cope, how you were able to come out the other end of it. That is often a source or a resource where you see qualities you have, persistence maybe, or patience, or the ability to get back up on your feet, dust yourself off, and continue regardless, right? So even in bad situations, even if something happens that really pulls us down, it feels like a failure maybe, there are often qualities and resources and strengths to be found in there, in how we deal with it. And
Yeah.
in a way, if you look at where you are today and where I am today, it's a success story, isn't it? With all the ups and downs, we made it. We made it this far. We made it until today. What is it? December 12th, 2024. It is very likely that this success story will continue, and that there will be ups and downs also in the future, like there were in the past. But yeah, we'll make it. We'll make it through that as well. It's very likely.
Well, I mean, that's but that I like the way you put that, and that made me giggle because it's so true, but it sounds almost childish because we feel, or sometimes I think I hear people say it feels like we're supposed to carry this the sense of responsibility going forward every day. And it's funny what you just said as well. It's very likely, right? If you want to look at it statistically, since we're here now, it's very likely that this success story will continue. And I love that
Yeah.
phrasing. Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.
Yes. Yes. It is very likely. It all depends on how you see it. How you judge yourself and your own path, and how much you can trust in yourself, really. Yeah.
Hmm.
I quoted Steve Jobs a moment ago, who said you
Mhm.
can only connect the dots looking back. Yes. The challenge is that you have to live life forward. You can connect the dots looking backwards. That's great. but I have to live looking forward into the future. And I don't see any dots connecting.
Right.
The only thing I see is fog, dense
Mm,
fog,
hmm.
uncertainty. I don't know what will be tomorrow, next week, in a year from now. How will 2025 turn out for me? I have no clue, right? So we have to live life forward into the fog by always only doing the next step. Yeah? We can see the next step that we can take, so let's take that step and then see where we end up. And then we take the next step from there. Because the
Um,
environment is also changing constantly, right?
well, exactly. So when um when you are looking at the next step, maybe uh would I ask you to help me think about some of those successes that I have had when you say trust in yourself.
Yeah.
I watched a movie recently, and that one of the characters said something of that nature to the other. It was a young woman and an older woman, and actually a teenager, a young teenager, and a grandmotherly figure. And the grandmotherly figure said, uh, "Find something that you can trust, and learn how to use that." And I thought that was an interesting uh, way that she emphasized that word that you can trust. And so I took that to mean from the writing that the writer there meant to say it takes one's own time and perception to learn what that feels like or looks like for oneself. And
Yeah.
so I gather that based on the story that you're sharing, you have figured out a way to turn your stories into a way to trust yourself, or a way to build that trust with
Yes.
yourself, would you say? Maybe.
Yes, 100% agree to what you just said. The story we're telling ourselves about ourselves is key, makes all the difference.
Mm,
The story we're telling ourselves about our past, for example, right? What is my story that I'm telling myself about my past? That gives the meaning to my past. The good thing about this is you can change the story. You can not in a way that you would tell a completely different story that is not true. That's not what I
mhm.
mean, right? But you can re-emphasize certain aspects. You can, how I just said, you can see the failure that happened, the misfortune that happened, or you can focus on how you got out of that and how you dealt with it, right? That's a different
Mm,
perspective. It gives that event a different quality. Now, the challenge with that lays in a psychological phenomenon called negative bias, right?
okay.
Yeah. What is negative bias? It's a bias in our perception that leads to us perceiving things that we consider negative and potentially threatening, perceiving those much stronger than anything that's going well. And we also react more strongly to them. It's like a magnet attracting our attention. Like it automatically goes to the negative stuff. That is not wrong. It's very human. It's very old. It has to do with survival, right?
Okay.
So, the problem with negative bias is it does not only distort our perception of what's happening. So, like after a day at work, when you come home, you remember what didn't go well, right? it
Right,
does not
right.
only it does not only distort that outside perception. For most people, it also distorts the self perception. So, inwards, how I see myself. I mean, most people, if you ask them, they could very easily list their three, four, five main weaknesses and what they're not good at,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But what are your qualities? What are you really good at? What are you better at than most other people? Right.
Mm.
So that for many is a more difficult question because
Yes.
because the inner dialogues we're having with ourselves, the inner self dialogues for most people are more leaning towards the self-critical side, the inner critic, than the inner voice that pats you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, well done. You didn't reach all your goals today. Never mind. You gave your best, and that was a good day." So this self-encouragement and self-empathy is often smaller, not so loud, not as loud as the inner critic,
Hmm.
which leads to this self-perception that might in which self-trust might not come so easy, you know. Because I failed there, this didn't work out, I was never good at that, and all this critical self-talk doesn't help to be confident and trustful about the future and walking into the fog, right? So what can help there is to systematically analyze your biography, for example,
Mm.
and look for successes, look for achievements, look
Mm.
for all the things you've already done and achieved in your life, including how you got out of difficult phases or difficult situations, how you recovered. That is also a success and an achievement. So you just sit down on a Sunday morning with a mug of tea or coffee and start making a list of all the things you have achieved.
Mm.
Everything, even the smallest things, even the small, just start making that list. This in itself is a very encouraging process. I would highly encourage everyone to do that because it makes you become aware, right? And then once you have this list, pick one. Let's say I lost my job and I had to move to a different city. Might
Okay.
seem like where's the success there? Well, the success or the achievement might be in how you handled that. So you look at that situation or that achievement and you split it up into what was the situation, how did I handle it, and what was the outcome? What was the result? And once you've described it like that, you ask yourself, okay, if I was able to handle this situation like that with this outcome, what am I obviously capable of?
Mm.
What are some skills that I must have if I did that? And what are some qualities I have? Persistence, flexibility, you know, a never give up attitude, whatever it may be. And like that, you discover, you first you explore and then you discover your core competencies and qualities that you have.
So it sounds like you're suggesting kind of starting out with a writing exercise or a prompt to kind of get going, and then I could, as you said, analyze. And you just did that, where we broke down the um, the situation, if you will, into basically just three little things, right? What was the thing? What
Yeah.
was I doing in response to that thing? And then what happened? And it
Yeah.
also, as you were saying that, it felt sort of like uh, there was a little bit of room to sort of take out the attachment between the things that you can't control and the way that you reacted to it. Right? There's a little bit of space there between um, the outcome isn't necessarily exactly an equation. Like, just because the situation was something you may or may not have control over all of the variables. So how you react to that situation, how I react to a situation, I could look at that independently,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I could
exactly.
bundle it all together.
Yeah, yeah. There's room for, playing with that in
Hmm.
what might be a challenge. If someone thinks, okay, I'm going to do that, I'm going to try that, I'm interested in what comes out and what I find. What may be challenging is to really identify strengths and qualities
Hmm.
in those situations because of something that's called strength blindness. Strength
Okay.
blindness is something that happens when we're good at something, but we're not even aware of it being a strength because we're good at it, we almost take it for granted. Because we're good at it, it comes easy, right? And and that
Hmm.
sometimes puts a veil on top of our qualities and strengths because for us it's normal. So it's not a strength, it's just me, right? And that may hinder or keep you from seeing clearly all the qualities and skills when you do that work. The key to that, to avoid that, or the workaround is to ask someone else. Talk to a
Oh.
talk to a friend, right? Do it together, maybe, with a friend. Sit down, do it individually, and then sit together and help each other identify the strengths and the qualities. Because an outside person looking at it, oh, that was the situation. That's what you did, and that's what came out. Well, you
Mm.
must be good at this, that, such and such, and these are the qualities I see in you. Often very easily because they don't have the strength blindness. They see it how it is, right?
That's funny.
And if you don't have anyone you can or want to do this exercise together with, you can do it mentally. You can, adopt an outside perspective by asking yourself, okay, suppose I didn't do that, but a good friend of mine did that, and they're telling me that story,
Mm.
how they did it and what came out of it. What would I assume they have as strengths and qualities, right?
Hmm.
So that's
That's a
like
really good idea. So
that's
pretend
an yeah.
you're watching a friend be pretend like they are acting as you, kind of they're playing you in your mental movie.
Yeah. If someone else did that, what strengths and qualities would I see in them? Right. So you
Yeah.
take yourself out of it, and that can help. That can help. But it's great. It's great work, very important work, and the effect, the impact of that in many cases, I've seen this happening, is that people become much more aware of their resources and their achievements and their capabilities. And the more you are aware of that, the more certain you become of yourself. The more certain you become that you will be able to manage and handle whatever lies ahead, whatever will come. I was able to deal with it so far. I will be able to deal with whatever is ahead of me, and from there comes self-confidence, true inner self-confidence and self-trust. That's the effect of it.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. I want to make sure I get the right contact for you. Where can people find you?
Well, just look for my name. I'm not aware of any other person that has the same name. I think there's a young teenager in Argentina that has the same name, but that's not me. Just Google my name. You find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm very active. You find me on TikTok. Um,
Okay.
You'll find me on Instagram, just the all the well-known channels, or just visit my website where you find more information about my work and my approach. And reach out to me if you want to exchange thoughts. I'm always happy to exchange thoughts and to assist if I can, of course.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I LinkedIn is a good place. I thank you for that. Determined. Yep, I see that there's so you're an excellent speaker, so I can listen to you talk on YouTube as well. Now, if I'm actually looking at your profile, Thomas Gelmi, Executive Coaching and Leadership Development on LinkedIn, and then right here I see I can message you and visit your website. So if I visit the website, I'm going to gelmi.coach/en, or just gelmi.coach is what it looks like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great. And I see you have where I can look at executive coaching, and there's a couple of different actionable items here too. So way to get in touch with you, as you said, is I can contact you, so I can message you directly here too. There's also a form right on your site. Again, that's gelmi.coach.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
And there's a whole section or a whole section of online learning opportunities. There's an academy with um, online learning modules for various topics. One of them is self-awareness that we just very much spoke about in this session. The
Yes.
self-management
Okay.
and
I got it. So
leadership. Yeah,
Leadership Academy, and that's actually, yeah, right in your menu. So if I look at the menu and the drop-down box, it's right there, online learning.
exactly. And there's books I've written. You get a book when you sign up for an online course. The book is included, and all sorts of interesting things to discover.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I hope you have a fantastic week. And as you said earlier, I'm in Virginia, you're in Switzerland. You said you can tell me it's going to be a great day because you've already lived it.
I'm already ahead of you a few hours. I can tell you it'll be fine. Yeah. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much for
you.
having me. It was fun talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now. Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts.